And there's intimacy on the radio, and there's naturalness on the radio that can never be replicated on TV. The marvelous resurgence of radio as a political force in this country.
News-related radio programming is evolving.
There's a huge hole in our dialogue that can be filled by the synthesis of traditional radio and the freedom that comes from a live podcast. You're about to experience Cowboy State Politics live. Here we go. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to another exciting installment of the program. From very high above, all the puerile and bombastic twits in the Wyoming mainstream media, this is Cowboy State Politics. I, of course, am your illustrious host, David Iverson, firmly ensconced behind the silver Cowboy State Politics microphone and broadcasting to you from the base of the Bighorns, at the Cowboy State Politics Studio in Sheridan, Wyoming. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the program. Happy Friday, and it is the last program of Cowboy State Politics Live for a few days. As I told you yesterday on the program, Monday, of course, we don't have Cowboy State Politics on Monday, but I'll be traveling. And then Tuesday is the opening day of the legislative session, so I'm probably going to have to spend some time there setting up the mobile studio. You know, it's always hard when you're walking into something that you don't really know what it's going to look like or how things are going to work out. There's always lots of trips to go buy new equipment and all sorts of stuff. So anyway, on Tuesday, definitely not going to have Cowboy State Politics Live because the session is opening up and, you know, all that stuff. So we will return on Wednesday. And don't forget, the time slot is also going to change. Cowboy State Politics Live will be from 8 o'clock until 9 o'clock a.m., Tuesday through Friday for the duration of the legislative session. And the reason for that is I can't be in two places at once. I can't very well do the Cowboy State Politics Live from the Capitol building, though I did get confirmation that the press credentials were approved, so no headache there. So I suppose I could use the media room, but which, by the way, that's the only thing that press credentials get you. You know, there's been a couple of articles last session about, you know, different things that were happening. Well, you know, were they credentialed media or not? Well, really being credentialed media, the only thing that means is that you can have access down by the floor. And there's those two doors on either side of the chamber, and you can go in there and take pictures if you want. And you can use the media room. But other than that, there's really no benefit to having any sort of press credential. So anyway, I got that, and we're ready to go to Cheyenne. Like I said, I'm traveling on Monday, and we'll return for the live program on Wednesday at 8 a.m. However, today on the program, it's Open Line Friday. That's right, my friends. It's Open Line Friday on Cowboy State Politics, the day of the week where we talk about whatever you want to talk about. I say the rules are different today. You know, whatever you got on your mind, we'll talk about it. It's different than any other time during the week. During the week, you pretty much have to talk about what I want to talk about, or I'm just probably not going to answer the phone call. But on Friday, we talk about whatever you want, whatever's on your mind, whatever's been bugging you, what's been irritating you throughout the week. Go ahead and give me a call. If you want to be part of the program, the phone number here in the studio is 307-374-8989. 307-374-8989. Open Line Friday on Cowboy State Politics Live. Go ahead and give me a call. We begin this morning with another ridiculous article in the Cowboy. Maybe the article's not all that ridiculous. I mean, it is Leo Wolfson, so Trotsky, anything that he writes is a little bit ridiculous. But anyway, it's the subject matter that's a little bit suspect. And the article is entitled, "Concealed Carry at the Wyoming Capitol Gets Final Okay, but it won't happen right away." Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that the building commission, which, by the way, we already have a law that allows you to carry your concealed weapon. And, although the governor did veto House Bill 125, which would have eliminated gun-free zones in Wyoming. So most of the time you can carry your gun anywhere, just not in the majority of government buildings. So after the governor vetoed House Bill 125, there was a big kerfuffle about him doing that. And so the building commission, which is the top 5 elected officers in the state, it's interesting. We've got a number of boards, and they're all manned by the same people. The SLIB board, the land board, the building commission. Yeah, it's all the same people. It's the top 5 electeds. Well, anyway, let me read to you what Trotsky writes, and I quote, "At some point in the near future, Wyoming residents will be able to conceal carry firearms in some areas of the Capitol." So we don't exactly know when this is going to happen, and we don't really know in what areas. Trotsky continues, "The State Building Commission, which sounds pretty official, well, it's the same people that are on the SLIB board and the land board. It's the top 5 elected officers in the state. Governor Mark Gordon gave a unanimous final appeal to new rules that would allow concealed carry of firearms in certain parts of the Wyoming Capitol complex without a concealed carry permit," which, by the way, you don't have to have a concealed carry permit to carry your concealed weapon anywhere that you can legally do that. The only thing that a concealed weapons permit allows you to do in the state of Wyoming is that you don't have to go through a background check to buy firearms. Or if you're going to travel across state lines and that state has reciprocity with Wyoming, well, then you can carry your firearm there. But inside the 4 corners of the great state of Wyoming, yeah, it doesn't really get you anything as far as carrying your firearm. Let's see here. The new rule would apply to the Capitol building and the extension hallway, but not the rooms within this hallway that host many legislative committee meetings. Those rooms, other parts of the Capitol, and the 2 chambers of the Wyoming legislature are under the purview of the legislative body. So the rule passed on Wednesday would not apply to any one of those areas. So let me just break down what this actually means. It means that you can walk through the Capitol front doors. Yep, you can do that. It's in the public areas. But you can't go up to if you're carrying your firearm, that is. But you can't go up to the House gallery. You can't go up to the Senate gallery. If you're a legislator, you can't carry it in the Senate chamber, and you can't carry it in the House chamber. And if you go downstairs into the Capitol extension, you can carry it in the hallway, but you can't carry it in any of the committee rooms. So I guess if you wanted to hang out in the hallway, or if you wanted to go down and maybe play a game of chess, there's a number of chess boards down in the extension hallway. Maybe you could look at some statues. But other than that, you really couldn't do anything else. You just have to hang out in the hallway, in the common areas, in the Capitol building. So, and I don't know. I suggest that everybody go down and visit our state's Capitol and watch a legislative session. It will be an eye-opener for you. Every single person that I have taken to the legislative session to show them what's going on has been absolutely shocked about how some of their elected representatives act. And I suggest that everybody do that. But here's the thing, right? If you're going to walk into the Capitol building, you're going to be doing something. You're on some sort of business. You're either going to watch the legislative session or you have a meeting in some office. But you're not just going to hang out in the common areas. And so what Mark Gordon and the Building Commission are doing here is trying to placate gun owners. For the longest time since Mark Gordon, and I think it was Governor Meade, who put that stupid sign that says firearms prohibited in the Wyoming State Capitol up, this is just to placate gun owners, to make the top 5 elected officers. And let's see if it's got the vote in here, because I know that there's at least a couple of them that, here we go. The Attorney General's office is currently drafting separate rules to cover these buildings and other state buildings in the piecemeal exceptions. Okay. An effort the Megan Degenfelder and Auditor Christy Rucina support, for instance. Okay. So anyway, the point is that you really can't carry your concealed weapon in most areas of the Capitol. So that would be the legislative chambers, the meeting rooms, any other room. But you could hang out in the lobby and in the hallway. And if you wanted to, you could play a game of checkers or chess. If you're you're not as lowbrow as some of the people that came up with this rule. They're playing checkers. We're playing chess. But it's, and it never fails with these folks. An issue arises, and they try to figure out the least damaging thing, the least damaging remedy to them, right? What is going to cause them the least amount of headache? How far do they have to go in compromising their own liberal beliefs and still try to placate people? Well, it's a perfect example of what this is. So anyway, firearms in the Capitol, you can carry them in the common areas, but you can't do any business in there. It sounds absolutely stupid to me. By the way, it's Open Line Friday. If you want to weigh in on the dumb firearms thing that the state capitol is going to do, or anything else, go ahead and give me a call, 307-374-8989. Well, we haven't really talked that much about the California wildfires. They're absolutely devastating. I was watching Beck's show this morning, and he put up a picture on the screen of a side-by-side, a picture of Hiroshima and an aerial view of Los Angeles, and they pretty much look the same. Total devastation, and I mean, there is zero containment on that big fire right now, which means if they don't get it under control in the very near future, Los Angeles is going to burn to the ground. It's the second largest city in America, and just think about this. What do you suppose the rest of the world thinks about us right now? That we're basically allowing Los Angeles, and I'll explain this here in just a second. We're allowing Los Angeles, the second largest city in the entire country, to burn to the ground. I would say that the rest of the world probably looks at us as that we're entirely incompetent, that we can't even put out a fire. Now, the reason why I say that we allowed this is California burns just about every single year, and it's a result of stupid liberal policies that prohibit the cleaning out of forested areas. They're not really having any logging. There's down timber everywhere. They're crazy uber environmentalist policies have prevented the cleaning up of any of their forested areas. And as we in the Cowboy state know, if you don't do any logging, well, you've just got a whole box full of matches sitting up there, especially if there's been a fire there before that burned it out. I mean, down timber, standing dead timber, it's nothing but a giant tinder box that will go up like a cinder. But for a very long time, it has been the policies of those people in power in California that have created this situation. So the fires that they're experiencing right now, the potential burning down of the entire city of Los Angeles, it is entirely man-made. All of it. Now, I'm not saying, and there's some fires that they know have been set by arsonists. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is the devastation that is happening in California right now is entirely the fault of the people that have been in charge. I mean, yesterday, the big story was that the fire hydrants don't have any water pressure. You can't get water out of a fire hydrant to fight fires. And I've got a story here in the stack of stuff. Yeah, it's up next. That they spent way more money on LGBTQZXPWD outreach than they did in fighting fires. And you're going to be shocked at the list of things that they spent money on and not on firefighters and firefighting equipment. It's absolutely crazy. But what's happening right now in California has been predicted by conservatives for a really long time. All you have to do is, and I would imagine if you talk to any firefighter, anybody who spent time in a firehouse anywhere in the state of Wyoming and asked them about California, they would probably tell you that this is entirely a situation of their creation, that they are the ones that put together the policies that allowed this fire to burn. And, you couple that with their DEI crazy policies that firefighting in the city of Los Angeles, so inside the city, not in forested areas has really created this. But just 3 months ago, it was Donald Trump that predicted that all of this was going to happen. And the best soundbite that I found on this, and Donald Trump has been talking about this problem in California for a really long time. I mean, if I remember correctly, there were even some instances during his first term in office where he talked about the fire danger in California. But here he is on the Joe Rogan program during that interview he did during the campaign, talking about California and the risk of fire. Here we go. Donald Trump on Joe Rogan.
Billions of dollars a year they spend on forest fires. And, there's a case with the environment. They're not allowed to rake their forests because you're not allowed to touch it. When a tree falls down, after 18 months, it becomes very dry. It's like, like real firewood. It's bad. But when a tree is up, it sucks water. It's wet. But when they fall, they're like, it's like lighting a match.
Yeah.
And you got to be able to clean. They call it maintain your forest. So I was with the head of Austria. He said, it's a shame. I see all those forest fires in California, and all they have to do is clean their forest, meaning rake it up, get rid of the leaves, get rid of, leaves that are sitting there for 5 years. And
we'll certainly get rid of the dead fall.
And get rid of the trees that have fallen that are like.
There you go. And, you would think a state that is as money hungry as California is, I mean, they have one of the highest state income taxes in the entire country. You would think as much money as they spend and that they tax their citizens, that they would think, hey, maybe if we log this, we can make some more money. But nope, because of environmental regulations, they've decided that they'd rather let it burn to the ground. Well, let's go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, I'm going to tell you about all of the crazy things that California spent money on instead of fighting fires. I don't know if you saw the video of the Los Angeles mayor. Yeah, she told people to go to a website if they need help from the fire. More politicians from California, I'm telling you, and some of them want to be president. More when we come back. You are listening to Cowboy State Politics Live on the Independence Network. You're not going to find a better source of news, information, and entertainment than right here on the Independence Network. Now, we're making a few changes, moving a couple things around, out with the old and in with the new, and that whole spiel. Of course, you could listen to my program, The Ramble Room with Ken Pendergraft, Locked and Loaded with the good Representative Tony Locke from Casper. There's a whole bunch more coming on the Independence Network. Also, don't forget to check out the articles section at the website, independencenetwork.us. It's loaded with op-eds, commentary, and news from all around the Cowboy State. You can listen to the Cowboy State Politics podcast anywhere that you get your podcasts. iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, really any of them will work. But the easiest place is just to go to the website, cowboystatepolitics.com. There you can find all of the shows, as well as any of the articles that I might bring up during the course of a program. That way, if your name is Joe Biden and you can't remember if you had your pudding today, well, I probably can't help you with that, but I can definitely tell you why you should have never ran for president. And now, back to our program. Welcome back to the program. David Iverson, Cowboy State Politics Live on YouTube, on X, on Facebook, on Rumble, on the Independence Network. almost omnipresent. But anyway, welcome back to the program. It's Open Line Friday on Cowboy State Politics Live. If you want to be part of the program, the phone number here in the studio is 307-374-8989. 307-374-8989. Open Line Friday here at the program. Now, before the break, I was telling you that there's a ridiculous list of things that California spent money on instead of fighting fires. From the Intelligence State Reporter, and I quote, "The city of Los Angeles cut funding for its fire department and allocated thousands of dollars to various progressive programs, including a midnight stroll transgender cafe and a gay men's chorus." Fires swept through Southern California on Wednesday, destroying hundreds of homes in Los Angeles County, and high winds only fueled the destruction. The Democratic mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, was slammed for slashing the Los Angeles Fire Department's budget by $17.6 million for the fiscal year of 2024 to 2025, Fox 11 reported. Bass claimed in a press conference that none of the reductions made, quote, would have impacted the situation that we are dealing with over the last couple of days. She added that the city is, quote, in tough budgetary times. Los Angeles allocated $100,000 to the Civil Human Rights and Equity Department for the Midnight Stroll Transgender Cafe. $100,000, according to the 2024-2025 budget. The funding's purpose is to, quote, support a safe haven for unsheltered transgender individuals in Hollywood. Good job, Los Angeles. Now, instead of these homeless transgender people, whomever they are, now everyone is homeless. Fantastic work, Karen Bass. Similarly, the Cultural Affairs Department's special appropriations budget allocated $100,000 for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP. I'm sure they needed money. Now they too need money for an office. The budget also appropriated $8,670 for the One Institute for International Gay and Lesbian Archives. Well, it's good that you gave them that money, because now, instead of bolstering their gay and lesbian archives, or whatever the heck that is, now they have to buy an entire building to house the archives. The One Archives at the University of Southern California Libraries currently has an exhibit titled Sci-Fi, Magic, Queer LA, Sexual Science, and the Imagination, which focuses on the occult and the LGBTQ movement. The budget also allocated $13,000 for the Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Heritage Month programs, and $14,000 for a gay men's chorus in Los Angeles. The Los Angeles African American History Month, American Indian Heritage Month, Latino Heritage Month, and Asian American History Month programs were each allocated $13,000. The budget also appropriated $170,000 in total for social justice art worker investments. So that's good that you gave them money, but now they don't have anywhere to produce their art. The LA Fire Department was blasted for promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, and in its 2023 to 2026 strategic plan, stated that DEI was one of its key goals. Now, wait a minute. If you're a fire department, wouldn't one of your key goals to be preventing and fighting fires, wouldn't that be one of your main goals? Wouldn't that be the main thing that you should pay attention to? Nope. It's DEI. The stated priority of the city's first LGBTQZXPWD and woman fire chief, Kristen Crowley, is promoting, quote, a culture that values diversity, equity, and inclusion. Well, it's great that the city of Los Angeles spent so much money on all of their diversity. It's just a shame that now they don't have anywhere to practice that diversity, nor does anybody else have any place to live, simply because the fire department is not fighting fires. Instead, they're focusing on bolstering their lesbian gay and lesbian outreach for the fire department. You want to know why your cities are burning? Because you're stupid. That's why. My God. Now, the other headline today, of course, is the final ruling, the sentencing of Donald Trump. And my friends, this is the funniest the funniest disposition of any court hearing anywhere. The judge said that there is an unconditional discharge of Trump's case. Unconditional discharge. It's almost like you're sitting on the toilet or something. I mean, it's entirely what it sounds like. But basically, that's used to say, it's used for almost like really, really minor offenses. So you run a stop sign and you get ticketed and you go before the judge and the judge says, you know what, you did run through the stop sign, but there's not going to be a fine here or anything. It's probably going to show up on your record, but there's no jail time. There's no fine. There's no nothing. So in Donald Trump's case, what this means is that he's still going to be a felon. It'll still be on his record, but there's nothing else to do with it. So we spent all of this money on a trial. We spent all of this time in the media. We tried every single way we could possibly think of to get Donald Trump. And in the end, they're saying, don't worry about it. It's not really that big a deal. But the Supreme Court ruling is the one that really ought to irritate everybody. Basically, it said, and let me look through the, let's see here. Well, I'll go through the article, and in here somewhere, it basically says that this isn't going to be that big of an imposition to Donald Trump. It's not really going to bother him that much, so we're going to let it go forward. What they should have done is just dismissed the entire thing out of hand, because no one, not a single person, has ever been prosecuted in this fashion except Donald Trump. All right, and I quote from Tim Pierce. Quote, the Supreme Court voted 5-4 to reject President-elect Donald Trump's request to pause his sentencing hearing related to his New York hush money case. Chief Justice John Roberts and Justice Amy Coney Barrett sided with the court's 3 liberal justices to reject Trump's request, according to the Associated Press. The majority did not rule on the merits of Trump's argument, but said that the question could be decided through an appeal. So, in other words, they punted it down and said, well, you go through the appeals process. Alito, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Thomas voted to delay the sentencing hearing. Trump responded to the ruling on Thursday evening during a dinner with Republican governors at Mar-a-Lago. Quote, I respect the court's opinion. I think that it was actually a very good opinion for us because you saw what they said, and they invited the appeal, and the appeal is on the bigger issue. So we'll see how it all works out. George Washington University law professor Jonathan Turley said the Supreme Court's ruling was predictable and, despite what the decision would suggest, may ultimately help Donald Trump. Let's see here. I want to read to you exactly what they said. I was listening to... I think this is it right here. These included, without limitation, statements issued through... Okay, no, that's not it. Anyway, I was listening to it on, I think it was on the Mark Levin program last night, and the ruling, there really wasn't even an opinion from the court. It was just, we don't really think this is going to influence Donald Trump, and it can go through the appeals process. That's basically all it said. It was no more than 4 or 5 sentences. So absolutely ridiculous. But it's funny, though. Unconditional discharge, like the crap that it is. Wow, my friends, just absolutely amazing. Well, Open Line Friday. The phone lines are open if you want to be part of the show. It's 307-374-8989. And let's see here. We're almost at the bottom of the hour. So we're going to go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about one of my favorite guys, the president of Argentina. You've heard me talk about him a lot. I wished over and over that he was the president and not Joe Biden, but I think he and Donald Trump are going to do some big things. I'll tell you about him next. You can listen to Cowboy State Politics live every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. on the Independence Network. Make sure that you subscribe and follow the Cowboy State Politics podcast. You can do that from the website, cowboystatepolitics.com, or anywhere that you get your podcasts. That way, you'll make sure that you won't miss a single episode of Cowboy State Politics. Cowboy State Politics is sponsored by FreedomGoldUSA.com. They are the working man's gold company. The economy is in turmoil. The stock market pretty much is out of control, and you never know what's going to happen with your finances or your income. One way that you can shore up everything is by investing in gold and silver. Go to freedomgoldusa.com/David for a free interview to discuss your options and find out if gold or silver is right for you. One more time, that's freedomgoldusa.com/David. Welcome back to the program. David Iverson, Cowboy State Politics Live, documented to be almost always right 98.97% of the time, a record that nobody else in the media can even come close to. And it's really easy to do that. All you have to do is tell the truth and verify your sources, and you'll be right. It's an amazing phenomenon that nobody else in the Wyoming media can even come close to it. And it's, they all try to convince you that they're the ones that actually report the facts. But when the chips are down, when everything is laid on the table, it's obvious that the cow pie, the Pravda on the Platte, Wild Pile, all of them are entirely biased. And one of the things that I always look forward to when we're approaching the legislative session is reading all of the ridiculous articles from Trotsky Wolfson. It is absolutely amazing the lengths that guy goes to twist people's words, to twist the facts, to try to portray it in a liberal way. I mean, it is absolutely incredible. I look forward to it every year. Well, anyway, it's Open Line Friday here on Cowboy State Politics Live. The phone number in the studio is 307-8989 if you want to be part of the show. Go ahead and give me a call. The phone number is 307-374-8989. Now, one of my favorite guys over the past year has been Argentina's new president, Javier Milei. And when he was running for office, everybody compared him to Donald Trump. He had the crazy hair, and he wore the tie and acted a lot like Trump, actually. He took a chainsaw to most rallies and fired it up. And he got the reception from the media that you would expect, that he was absolutely going to destroy the country. And let's see here. I think this is from the New York Post, and I quote, "In the days leading up to the November 2023 presidential election in Argentina, 100 leading economists," I love when they say stuff like that, "from around the world, including the progressive favorite Thomas Piketty, published an open letter warning that the radical right-wing economist Javier Milei would inflict devastation and social chaos on the country. They say that like it's a bad thing." By the time that Milei unexpectedly won the presidency, Argentina, once one of the wealthiest nations in the world, had a poverty rate of over 40% and the third highest inflation rate in the world. Now, the question is, can Donald Trump do the same thing that Javier Milei did in Argentina? After decades of Peronism, this is in Argentina, a toxic melding of fascism, socialism, and unionism, the nation bankrupted its central bank, and the peso was depreciating at warp speed. They were approaching hyperinflation. Now, the country was on its way to becoming another Venezuela. Yeah, Milei definitely wanted to blow that thing up. After Milei's unlikely victory, political scientist Ian Bremmer warned, quote, "Economic collapse is coming immediately." Of course, not noticing that the country was already in pretty much economic collapse with high unemployment, high inflation, and an economy that was totally in the crapper due to overspending by the central government. Felix Salmon, a chief financial correspondent at Axios, argued that Milei's policies would plunge Argentina into a deep recession, as opposed to the recession that they were already in. It's fascinating when liberals get in and they're actually able to enact their policies and the economy reacts predictably to what they're doing. Socialists and leftists, they've tried the same economic policies for 100 years. Or, maybe 100 years. And every time it fails. Socialism never works. Well, it works until you run out of other people's money to spend, as Margaret Thatcher would say. But the truth is that free market economics and freedom and conservatism, if allowed to prosper, will work. If conservatism is allowed to continue and allowed to operate, it will turn an economy around. It will turn a nation around. You just have to let it work. And that's something that liberals and progressives, they don't like because they're fundamentally opposed to freedom. They're fundamentally, and here's the thing. Your economic freedom is inextricably tied to your personal freedom. If you don't have economic freedom, that is, if you don't have discretionary money in your pocket, if you don't have the ability to go out and buy the things that you want to buy, and I'm not saying you have to be rich, but if you don't have control over your money, you are not really free. If the government is mandating that you buy X, Y, and Z, like the Biden administration was trying to do with your hot water heater and your light bulb and your car and your heater and all of the things that they tried to convince you that you had to buy, then you are not free. You have to have economic freedom. Well, anyway, Javier Milei was elected, and 7 months later, Argentina was out of the recession. And this is the recession that every economist was promising. In 7 months, Milei had them out of it. The chainsaw-wielding economist El Loco, to his friends, followed through on his promise to shock therapy, prioritizing taming inflation and cutting spending and deregulating the economy. Governments in the modern West are always bragging about spending their way out of economic tribulations. And that's the same thing that the Democrats have tried to do in America. The Inflation Reduction Act, does that ring a bell? All that was an attempt to spend our way out of poverty. By the way, that never works. You can't spend your way to prosperity. The only people that prosper in a system like that is those folks who are already in power, the elites. And that's the whole point of socialism, that you become rich at the expense of everybody else. Now, if a person suggests that free market economic policy would have been more beneficial in the long term, they are forced to rely on a counter history. This is why lots of elites are rooting against Milei. He would prove them wrong. As we all know, most panic-inducing cases of austerity are just minuscule reductions in the trajectory of spending growth. Not Milei's plan, which entailed shutting down 13 government agencies and firing over 30,000 public workers, around 10% of the federal workforce. This is an unrivaled political revolution. Argentina's federal budget was reduced by 30%. Even the Department of Government Efficiency accomplished everything, even if they did, everything that Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy are talking about doing, they wouldn't come close to 3%, much less 30% in spending cuts. There has likely been no comparable austerity program in any other Western economy. And wouldn't you know, the country is prospering. By May of 2024, Argentina recorded its first quarterly budget surplus since 2008. Inflation, still high, dropped from a debilitating 25% at the end of 2023 to 2.4% by the end of 2024. Per capita salary, having plunged, is now also recovering. Milei is often branded as a right-wing populist and a far-right outsider and a far-right libertarian. Any of those ring a bell, my friends? The fascist Peronists, that was the government that Milei replaced, the socialists, the unionists, who spent decades gutting and plundering one of the wealthiest nations in the world, are never assigned such ideological designations. Only conservatives are. And the reason why the progressives and the leftists go after conservatives as hard as they do, and we experience this in Wyoming also, by the way. I began this segment talking about the liberal media and how they never tell you the truth, how Trotsky Wolfson, and I'm looking forward to each and every article he writes because it gives me endless material. But all of them have to go after conservatism, because if conservatism is allowed to operate, it means their little cash cow comes to an end, that they can't prosper off the backs of working people. And that's what socialism and communism and all of those isms do. It enriches the elite at the cost of everybody else. Well, the thing is, at the General Assembly, Milei derided the United Nations. That is a fantastic speech, by the way. I really wish that guy spoke English so I could have some good sound bites. It just doesn't have the same ring to it when you hear it through a translator. Anyway, he derided the United Nations and promised that Argentina would drop its longtime neutrality on international matters, backing nations in the same fight. Argentina instantly became one of Israel's greatest supporters in that corrupt institution. And Milei, by the way, still has an approval rating over 50%, which is around the same number he had when he won the election. Considering the dependency and state-entrenched special interests operating in Argentina, it's a miracle that he ever got elected at all. His success, on the other hand, is absolutely no miracle whatsoever, my friends. Free markets work. Free market capitalism works. Conservatism always works. This is what can be with the second Donald Trump presidency, if he is allowed to operate. And I think that he is going to hit the ground running. And this time around, he knows where all the snakes are hiding. He knows which rocks he needs to tip over and which trees he needs to cut down. And I think that he is going to go in there, and it is going to be just like Javier Milei said. He's going to go in there with a chainsaw because he knows exactly what to do. And I really think that we should take Donald Trump at his word, that we are looking at a golden age in America. Now, he's only got 4 years to do it, to reduce a bloated budget, to strip out all the regulations that were put in by progressives and the Biden administration. He can do it. It's just going to have to happen at warp speed, my friends. And I am absolutely looking forward to it. I can't wait to celebrate each and every day we have another example of conservatism in operation. But as I've always told you, the left, they never stop. Never. Redcoats and the left, they never stop. When they're handed a defeat, they don't take defeat the same way conservatives do. As conservatives, if one of our policies is roundly rejected, we say, okay, well, I guess that one's not popular. Let's go around and let's try something different. Liberals don't look at the world that way at all. They just back up and they try it a different way. Try the same thing, the same policy. It is always, and redcoats and liberals, each and every time they're in power, they try some other form of socialism. And what you'll hear is that, well, we didn't get it right that time. We're going to do it right this time. That's why you're hearing terms like democratic socialism. That, well, we've got the right idea this time. We'll fix it, and it will be absolutely right. And, you don't have to worry about it. And you hear stuff like stakeholders. Well, the stakeholders in this program, all of that is bullcrap. There is one group of stakeholders in this country, and they're called Americans. And it's absolutely amazing, my friends, the lengths that the left will go to try to convince you that conservatism doesn't work. Well, they're wrong all the time, as they always are. So let's go ahead and talk to Jerry and see what he has to say. Jerry, do you think that conservatism always works?
If you believe in God, your country, and your family, you're probably a conservative.
Yeah,
And
I absolutely
this country
agree.
proves that conservatism works.
Well, it works.
Yeah.
It works each and every time it's tried. And the reason why, and this is my personal belief, the reason why liberals don't want to do that is it requires hard work. They actually have to work for the things that they have instead of taking it from other people.
Yes. Well, when I came here to Wyoming in '77, there was no one to vote for on the Republican ticket except on the presidential race. Well, I registered as a Democrat so that I could vote. And we did have, at that time, people that I looked at for conservative values, and you could actually find them in the Democrat Party. I think most of them have moved on and Republicans have replaced them, but it's just more proof every day. They just won't look at it.
Absolutely. And a lot of people don't know that the history of Wyoming is not a conservative one. I think personally, since statehood, it's been pretty much the Democrats who have been in control of this state. And that's the biggest reason why I'm super excited about this legislative session. I think it's going to be absolutely incredible. And, for the first time, we've actually got some conservatives in office that want to change some things around.
We do, and for the right reasons, God, country, and family. I mean, I can't come up with a better explanation on why I considered myself a conservative 50 years ago.
Well, and funny story for you, and I've told this one on the program, a couple of times, but years ago, I ran for city council in Buffalo, and in Johnson County, if you want to get elected, you have to be part of the parade. If you're not in the parade, you're not going to get elected. Well, at the time, my mom had this hot sports car, and it was a convertible Mercedes. I mean, thing was amazing to drive. Anyway, I went to her and I said, "Hey, Mom, I'm going to need your car for the parade," and she immediately said no. And I was like, "Well, okay, I expected that." And she says, "But I'll give you 2 reasons why." And I said, "All right, I'll bite. What's the first one?" And she says, "I don't want my car around all those crazy people." Okay, fair enough. So the second reason? And she said, "David, you've been a conservative since you were 5. Conservatives don't drive cars they can't afford." And I'm like, "Fair enough, Mom." So I went and found the most beat up pickup truck I could find, and I rode in the back of it through the parade. But it's
all right.
I've always been a conservative, and it's amazed me. I lived in Virginia for about 12 years, and Virginia, pretty much where I was at, was dominated by Democrats. In fact, Joe Biden and Barack Obama, they made stops, not 5 miles from where I lived. But then I moved back, and I was kind of surprised at the gains that the Democrats and the Redcoats had made in the state. And actually, and it turned out to be far worse than I thought it was when I started the program and started looking into all these folks. But I'm excited that conservatism has rounded the corner, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, me too. And about California, man, we all got to pray for those people out there.
Oh,
it's horrible what's going on.
Well, yeah,
it's been predicted.
Well, yeah, it's predictable. I mean, their crazy environmentalist policies are pretty much to blame for all of this stuff. And in the article I went through just a minute ago, all their crazy spending on everything that doesn't have anything to do with fighting fires. And I mean, if they don't get this thing under control, I really think there's a chance that the entire city of Los Angeles is going to burn to the ground.
Yeah. Well, I'm not one for conspiracy theories until they're proven, but there about 6 months ago, there was a lot of talk. I grew up on a farm in California in the 50s and 60s, and I still have lots of family, and they're almost all very conservative, farmers, their parents were farmers, but there was this organization that came together about 6 months ago that was called Smart LA 2028.
Okay.
And it was talking about building lots of small, smart cities within LA, starting in 28. But like I say, we know why these fires, this is the government out of control is why these fires are happening,
Absolutely.
They've always happened.
Absolutely.
But, you don't put in fire hydrants and not give them water.
Hold on a minute, Jerry. I'm at the minute. right at a break, and if you hold on a minute, we'll continue our conversation in just a second.
You bet.
Christmas is over, and all of the fun holiday cheer has been had. And what are we all left with? Frigid Wyoming weather. Below freezing temperatures that you still have to go out in. That's right, you do have to go back to work at one point or another. And not to scare you, but think about this. Every single morning, you get to scrape the ice off of your windshield. Now, while I can't do anything with that, I can make sure that your feet stay nice and toasty warm while you're doing it. All you have to do is order a pair of socks from the Buffalo Wool Company. They are the finest socks that I've ever put on my feet. And to get you a pair of them, go to the website, thebuffalowoolco.com. Trust me, you're not going to be disappointed. Wyoming is one of the most sought-after places to live. There's a lot of people that want to move to our great state. And if you're thinking about selling your house to one of them, you need a real estate agent that you can trust. That agent is Rebecca Bextel at Compass Real Estate. She's lived in Jackson for almost 20 years and has her fingers on the pulse of the real estate market. Last year, she sold almost $25 million worth of property. So if you're thinking of buying or selling, give Rebecca a call. Her phone number is 307-699-3519.
I've never felt the freedom like I do. I feel stronger every day, don't you? Well, I can show you how. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. I've never felt the freedom like I do. I feel stronger every day. I'm only gonna get stronger.
Welcome back to the program, Cowboy State Politics, live on Facebook, on X, on Rumble, on YouTube, on the Independence Network. Welcome back to the program. And we're talking with Jerry down in Rock Springs. Are you still with me, Jerry?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. Thanks for holding on through the break. So these fires in California, how long do you think it's going to be before they actually get them out?
President Biden has offered help, unlike, the people in Ukraine. I mean, the Appalachians. He's offered, they asked for, I believe what I read was 75% funding that they needed right now to fight these fires. And Biden promised them 100%. So maybe that's why, State Farm moved out of California. They knew that California was these fires have happened forever there. And maybe they knew there wasn't going to be any water.
Well, and
I'm not justifying them backing out. It's horrible, but.
Well, exactly right. The environmentalist policies to save that stupid little fish, and I don't even know anything about this smelt or whatever it is, but you have to balance environmental policies with, the protecting your citizens, doing the essential functions of government. And, when those two come into conflict, you got to find a way to take care of the citizens and take care of everything and, provide some help for your wildlife. And what they should have done is taken a lesson from Wyoming. I mean, that's one of the things that we do really well is take care of our natural resources while at the same time, and we could make the argument that a lot of towns in Wyoming don't take care of the essential functions of government. But just look at the fires that we have. We had a bad fire season, cost a lot more money than we thought, but we got them out. And, when it's a forest fire, it's all hands on deck. And while it's devastating, we eventually get it out. But we've got the resources to take care of it, unlike California. And the water situation, that's the one that just baffles me. And I was listening to, I don't remember which interview it was, but Donald Trump was saying, hey, you let all this water runoff go straight into the ocean. Why aren't you saving it? It's just baffling to me, Jerry.
Yes. And, a lot of this started back with Carter. When they started restricting roads in for logging and stuff, they helped firefighters get to hot areas, or at least give them an exit so that they can be saved. But then came along Bill and his wife, Hillary, and Babbitt at the time. They came up with all this stupid crap on, wouldn't even let people go in and clear up in Yellowstone, I believe it was on the Montana side back then, clear down trees from a tornado, yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. And, I think we all need to pray for all those people in California that are losing everything. But it's a result of the people that they vote for. And if they continue to vote for them, I don't want to say that they deserve this, but they too are to blame, man. When you're electing people like Gavin Newsom and Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff and all those people, it doesn't take a lot of math to figure out what you're going to get.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely, they've lived with the responsibility to change it for many, many years. And maybe this would be a good start for our new Dodge.
Absolutely.
Start right in California. And if nothing else, get the truth out so people know why this is happening. And maybe it'll wake some up and they'll take voting responsibility. It's
well, and that's a good point. I think that everybody needs to be fully aware of why all of this stuff happened. Now, I've seen some reports where some of these things were set by arsonists, but one of the reasons you can't fight fire is the politicians that you elect. Well, Jerry, thanks for the call, man. Have a good weekend, and we'll talk to you probably sometime later next week.
All right, and God bless our republic.
Yeah, God bless our republic. Thanks, Jerry. All right, that was Jerry from Rock Springs. We've got about 5 minutes left in the program, and maybe we'll go a little bit longer. I don't know. We'll see. I got a couple stories I want to get to. But anyway, if you want to be part of the program, the phone number here in the studio is 307-374-8989. Now, I've got this soundbite that I've been dying to play for you. There's been, and I don't think I'm going to get to this story today. Maybe I'll save it for next week. But there's a lot of people, companies, and social media platforms that are seemingly coming around to Trump's way of thinking. I've got an article here in front of me about CNN. They're finally starting maybe to sort of tell the truth about what's going on, but it's not that they believe it. And I don't want you to think that any of these folks have decided that they're now conservatives. They haven't. Well, and you're seeing some of this in Wyoming. And I think it was, last week that I had a segment on this. There are a lot of bills that are proposed for this legislative session. And by the way, I should tell you that tomorrow on Weekend Update, I'm going to do a legislative preview, kind of run through some of the things that are going to be coming up in the legislative session. So make sure you tune into Weekend Update, and on Monday, probably the same thing for Monday Reload. But anyway, don't think that any of these folks are now conservatives. And for example, CNN, they're now admitting that there's no way that Biden was going to beat Trump in the election. In our legislature, there's some seemingly conservative bills. There's a pretty deceptive one to eliminate the sales tax on firearms. That sounds pretty good, right? But it's a tax bill, and it's an end run around the bill that was passed to prevent credit card companies from tracking your gun purchases. There's a bill that wouldn't allow municipalities to ban fireworks on July 4th. Well, that sounds pretty good, right? Then we've got Ed Cooper in Senate File 37 saying that, we're going to have another enhanced concealed carry permit. Well, first, it sounds good. If his bill passed, you would be able to carry your firearm in schools if you jumped through another government hoop and if you allowed another government bureaucrat to tell you whether or not you could carry your firearm. None of those things are examples of conservatism. None of those people that are proposing this have woke up and said, wow, I think I'll be conservative today. That doesn't happen. That didn't happen. What it is an attempt to mislead you, and it is all for an election. Look at us. Now we're conservatives. But you always got to watch what the other hand is doing. And in terms of the companies that are seeming to come around to Trump's way of thinking, it's not about conservatism either. And by the way, we're going to end it on the Independence Network, but I'm going to keep going on the live program. I've got a couple of other things that I want to talk to you about. So we'll go ahead and end the Independence Network broadcast, and I'll continue here on the Ditto Cam. Well, anyway, none of these companies are now conservative. So let me give you an example. CNN, for years, they've gone on about how evil Trump was, how he's Hitler, how he's a dictator, how he's going to destroy America, how terrible he is, on and almost nonstop. Well, now it looks like maybe they're changing their tune a little bit. Don't believe them, but here I want to play this soundbite for you. A CNN analyst says that Biden is flat out bonkers that he could win the election. Listen to this one.
Okay, Joe Biden in his exit interview with USA Today claims that he could have beaten Donald Trump had he stayed in the race. So this begs the question, could Biden have won the 2024 election had he stayed in the race? Truthfully, I categorize his statement as flat out bonkers. Why do I say his statement is flat out bonkers, that he could have won the 2024 election had he stayed in the race? Just take a look here. The road to 270 electoral votes, Trump versus Biden, based upon polling when Biden dropped out of the race. Look at those Great Lake battleground states. You know the ones I'm talking about: Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Donald Trump ahead in all three. How about here in the Southeast, North Carolina, Georgia? Again, Trump leads. How about here in the Southwest, Nevada,
okay,
Arizona?
All right. You get the point. But CNN, they are not conservatives. How many times have they changed out their leadership at the top and they said, well, we're going to kind of change some things around. We're going to make some things a little bit different. Well, none of that is actually true, and you really shouldn't pay that much attention to it, because the only thing they're doing is responding to their bottom line. And I compare this to the Coke 2 phenomenon. You remember that back in the late 80s, early 90s maybe? I think it's probably late 80s. Coca-Cola came out with Coke 2. And it was the way that they said it was. I mean, they said it was going to be this fantastic new Coke and everybody's going to love it and it's going to be absolutely amazing. The only problem is it tasted like crap. Nobody wanted to drink it. And so they went back to their tried and true Coca-Cola formula. Well, that's kind of what's happening here, except these redcoats in the media, they're not going to stick with it. The only thing they're going to do is try to get you on board, get up their viewership a little bit, and then they're going to go back to attacking Donald Trump again and attacking conservatives. It's an attempt to fool you into believing what they're doing. It's no different than all of these bills that are being filed by the redcoats. Steve Harshman's got his, I read an article that he was going to run his sales tax bill, eliminate the property tax, and we're going to increase sales tax. That's a really, I mean, if he were being honest about it and that's what he wanted to do, that would be one thing. But that's not Steve Harshman's plan. I've still got to find that soundbite where he said he was going to tax services. But that's what his plan is, to actually increase tax revenue. So you always got to watch the other hand with what these people are doing. Let me give another example here. James Carville. Now, I used to like James Carville just because I thought he was an honest Democrat. After all, he was the architect of Bill Clinton's reelection right in the middle of the Monica Lewinsky thing and the impeachment and all of that. So, I mean, I never agreed with him, but I always put him in the same category as Bill Maher. Bill Maher's a liberal, but he's not a wacko. Now, James Carville, he's been saying some things that are kind of crazy, but listen to this. He's kind of admitting that the Democrats suck and they've got to change things around. But listen to him.
Do you want kind of bad news, and let's just pile it on? The image of the Democratic Party is at an all-time low. Democratic turnout in 2024 was not good. There's a great piece by Michael Pothart, who's a friend of the show, who's been on there. Trump didn't really do any better than he did in 2020 is Democrats did worse. And the truth of the matter is, I have
that's
great
not true.
respect and admiration for Secretary Clinton, for President Biden, even a good deal for Vice President Harris. But we have not had an inspirational presidential candidate since Obama ran for re-election.
And that's the point right there. Now, Carville, I mean, he's admitting that the Democrats have sucked for the last couple of elections, that he really likes Biden and Harris and Clinton, but they're not Barack Obama. Now, he is absolutely right about that. But what Carville is showing you is not that they're going to agree with the electorate. I mean, you heard him say, Trump didn't do any better than he did the last time. That's absolute bullcrap. He won the popular vote. He got more electoral votes this time. So absolutely, on face, he did better in the election. What Carville is trying to tell you is that they're not changing their game plan. They're not going to do anything different. They're going to continue doing the same thing that they have been for a really long time. The Democrats never stop, and they never quit. Let's see here. Here we go. The other one I wanted to talk about was Facebook. Now, we've heard some news about them recently, how they're going to do away with fact checkers. Now, I'm pretty sure just about everybody has either been in Facebook jail, or they know somebody that's been in Facebook jail, or they've had some moderation thing happen to them. There for a while on Cowboy State Politics, if I would publish an episode in which I said the word COVID or vaccine, there would instantly be a disclaimer on the podcast, on the post of the podcast. So I think that just about everybody has had some experience with their content moderation. Well, now Mark Zuckerberg, he's trying to sing a different tune. He's already donated $1 million to Trump's inauguration thing. He said that they're going to do away with their fact checking. Here, an article, and I think, where was this? I don't see a source on it. I may have deleted it. But anyway, the title of the article is Mark Zuckerberg says anyone who quits Meta over a lack of fact checking is virtue signaling. Well, that's absolutely true. But that's kind of what Mark Zuckerberg is doing. For the longest time, he has been campaigning and helping Democrats. In the 2020 election, he gave $900 million to bolster Democrat turnout in Democrat areas. Now, the truth is he gave money to Republicans too, but nowhere near the amount. He spent almost $1 billion trying to get the Joe Biden elected. And, I mean, he was largely successful because, that's one of the reasons why I say that the 2020 election was rigged, because of Mark Zuckerberg's $1 billion. But let's continue with the article, and I quote, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg shrugged off criticism that his new policy that does away with third-party fact-checking and censorship will alienate users, insisting that anyone who quits the company blame platforms Facebook, Instagram, and Threads would be virtue signaling. Zuckerberg responded to a post on Threads that criticized him for Tuesday's decision, with many calling him a coward and a liar who was kissing the ring of President Donald Trump. Well, the truth is, that's kind of what they're doing. Mark Zuckerberg, like Coca-Cola back in the late 80s, is paying attention to his bottom line, that he sees that the vast majority of the electorate has moved farther to the right. And the truth is that the country as a whole really is a center-right country. I think that this last election proves that. But Zuckerberg, he's not doing this because of his own changed beliefs. He's not seen the light. He's not come out as a closet conservative anymore. Nope. He's just paying attention to his bottom line. So is Jeff Bezos, who the owner of Amazon, and he also owns the Washington Post. Now, he's announced that there will be a bunch of layoffs at the Washington Post. Well, it's rightfully so, because the Washington Post sucks. But anyway, same thing there. He's paying attention to his bottom line, and he knows for the next 4 years, Donald Trump is going to be a wrecking ball. And those two, Mark Zuckerberg and Bezos, and there are some others, they just don't want to be in the way of when that all happens. The Republicans, for the next 2 years anyway, the Republicans control Congress, and we've got the presidency. So really, anything that they want to get passed, they can do it. And and billionaires don't become billionaires by being stupid. Okay, you have to be kind of smart and watch what's happening in the market. So that's the very reason why Mark Zuckerberg is doing this. Now we all hope that they've seen the light, that they've had a radical conversion, but the reality is they probably haven't. Now I want to go back to the Wyoming legislature for a second. I mentioned all of those bills that are filed, and a lot of them sound pretty conservative. But leopards don't change their stripes. You remember the old story of the duck that gave the scorpion a ride across the river? And they make it about halfway across the river, and the scorpion stings the duck. And the duck turns around and says, "Hey, why did you do that? I'm helping you out. I'm giving you a ride." And the scorpion says, "I'm a scorpion. That's what I do." Well, they're redcoats, and that's what they do. You can't take an entire political career of being on the left and then all of a sudden have a conservative transformation, and all of a sudden you're going to start voting the same way. You got to remember, you have to watch the other hand. Now, take Senator Slithers, Tara Nethercott, for example. Her entire career in the Senate and in the Wyoming legislature, she has voted pretty much almost all the time with the Democrats. Now, what leads you to believe that all of a sudden she's going to be a conservative? I mean, what makes you think that that's actually going to happen? What about Eric Barlow? Now, Eric Barlow supported Bo Biteman to be the president of the Senate. What makes you think that he is going to be a conservative? During his time as Speaker of the House and in the House of Representatives, Eric Barlow was one of the most liberal members. He's absolutely pro-choice. I've watched him vote against gun bills, conservative bills that were really important, ended up in his drawer. What leads you to believe that he is going to be a conservative? Well, he's not. He's not at all. And, it's only going to be a matter of time before these folks actually show you their true colors. I mean, that's what redcoats always do. And if you watch politics for long enough, you can spot these trends. The folks on the Wyoming left, they can see the writing on the wall. They know that the House of Representatives is in the hands of conservatives. They know that. They know that none of their bills are going to go through there if they're, unless they're, demonstrably conservative. They know that. And so they have to paint everything with kind of a conservative brush, even though underneath there's always something else that they're up to. Like I mentioned, Steve Harshman's sales tax, that's a perfect example. And let me expound on that one just a minute, because there were a lot of people. I took a lot of heat during the last legislative session trying to tell people how terrible that bill was. And, it was playing off the anti-property tax sentiment in the state, which still exists, but, we're making some headway on that one. But I took a lot of heat. People say, "Why are you against this bill? This is the most conservative thing that's ever come out of Steve Harshman's mouth." Well, while that's probably true, it's not really all that conservative, because for a long time, what Steve Harshman is up to is taxing services. You see, in Wyoming, we don't really tax that many. By services, I mean things like hairstylists, lawn maintenance, advertising isn't taxed either. So we only tax about 50 different services. Other states like Texas taxes over 200 services. So what Steve Harshman sees is a big giant cash cow in the taxation department of services. So his plan, and if you read the bill from last year, I haven't seen the new iteration of it, but if you read the version of it last year, the property tax, he doesn't do away with the language in the law. So it still exists. It's just an exemption. And then I've got to find the soundbite where he says that we're going to tax services. But his plan, had that bill passed, the very next thing was going to be, well, we're going to tax, advertising. We're going to tax hairstylists. We're going to tax barbers. We're going to tax lawn care services. That's what he was up to. And my point here is, don't get sucked into this whole lie that they're now a bunch of conservatives, because they're not. Leopards don't change their spots. Zebras don't change their stripes. And redcoats don't change their clothes. Well, we've burned up more than a busy broadcast hour on this Friday, Open Line Friday on Cowboy State Politics. Have a good weekend, and we'll talk again Wednesday. Now, remember, on Cowboy State Politics Live, we won't have a program until Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. Let me repeat that. We won't have Cowboy State Politics Live next Tuesday, and the time slot has to change. So we'll have the live program will begin at 8 a.m. in the morning on Wednesday, and I'll see you then. But for now, from the base of the Bighorns, I'm David Iverson, and this is Cowboy State Politics.